Well, good evening. Thanks for everybody being here. Sorry we're late. We had a meeting upstairs. As is our custom, let's stand in a moment of silence and pledge led by Dr. Rouse.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, good evening. The first item on our agenda this afternoon is public comment. I do have a couple people wishing to speak. We'll start with Mr. Avery Paget.
All right, hello. I know this meeting's about budgets and that sort of thing, but I just want to express how much I appreciate our teachers and how important it is that we support them as best we possibly can. My teachers throughout both elementary, middle, high school have all gone above and beyond what their role, technically incorporates. Like, for example, Miss Wallen, my geometry teacher, would stay in the mornings, an hour before school, just be there to, show us through questions we missed on tests or help us learn topics that we might be struggling with. Or Miss Robbins, she stays after school for Key Club and before school just to let all of us participate in these activities that otherwise couldn't exist. And it's just so important that, I know budget's always tight and that sort of thing, but we support them as best we possibly can. And I'll let my brother, say what he wants to say, but, thank you.
I just like to,
You might want
I just like to say that I am thrilled with how the Sullivan County teachers I've gone through have been. I had a 6th grade science teacher that would help me throughout my entire middle school experience, helped me with everything I could possibly do, got me in the yearbook, got me into like beta club and student council, helped me a lot. I had a 8th grade teacher that got me into not to worry about tests or anything, actual helping my mental status in a way. I just wanted to say I really appreciate all the teachers, and I think they deserve more than a 50% raise, but I know that's not reasonable, but I appreciate everybody.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Rodney, you're up. I'm gonna turn.
That's a hard act to follow.
First, so I got the bad stuff out. All right, so obviously that's my children. I know that there are several people in here that have dealt with me over the years with them. So, but anyways, my name is Rodney Paget, 1125 Gotland Shoals Road. I've been here many times before talking to you guys. I echo what my children have said. Overall, our experience with Sullivan County teachers has been excellent. And administrators. I hate that the discussion surrounds having to help one without helping the other, or helping them at different levels, or however it's going to work out. But I want to kind of go through some information. I know I've only got 3 minutes, so I'm going to buzz through it, and it'll probably sound very complicated. But I was looking at inflation rates today. And I want to read off some inflation rates coupled with teacher salary increases based off of your posted salary scales. 2016 teacher raise was 2%. Inflation rate was 2.1%. 2017 raise was 2%. Inflation rate was 2.1%. This is national inflation rate off of the census. 2018 raise was 2%. Inflation was 1.9%. 2019 raise was 2%. Inflation rate was 2.3%. 2020 raise was 2%. Inflation rate was 1.4%. 2021 raise was 8.5%. We thought we were doing something real good there. COVID hit us. Inflation rate was 7%. 2022 raise was 1%. Inflation rate was 6.5%. Last year raise was 3.5%. Inflation rate was 3.4%. For the last 5 years, county employees have had 5% raises. So you can compare those numbers too. The difference is the county's been willing to go to the property tax and to take tax revenue from the school system to fund those raises. That's the difference. The Financial Management Act was passed in 2020, and my personal opinion is it was passed to put a leash on you guys. That's just my opinion. This year, I feel like it's being abused. May 1st deadline for the school board to give their budget and their projections of revenue to the financial director couldn't be accomplished because those projections cannot be made by the school system anymore per state law. They're made by the finance director, and they were not given to the school until May 4th. May 15th is a deadline in the Financial Management Act in which the Budget Committee is supposed to have voted on the school budget. We presented it on May 15th. They didn't vote. They didn't have another meeting until May 29th, and they voted it down on a procedural vote. So you guys came back, voted it through on June 4th, same budget. They took a real vote on the 12th and voted that down. So you came back, You said, okay, you guys said for us to use our fund balance, so here you go. On that was June 18th. On June 20th, they approved it to go to the full commission. June 30th is the deadline on that Financial Management Act in which you have to meet, or they will go back to last year's budget numbers. They made no good faith effort to meet that deadline. They did not vote on your budget until July 30th, 2 days before the county budget is due. And now they have passed a budget that uses last year's numbers so that if they don't like what you have to say now, they don't necessarily have to have a meeting on Friday. And the meeting they are going to have is at 10 a.m., which conveniently is when a lot of people are at work and where some commissioners may not be able to make it, making that 13-vote yes harder to make. So I just want the teachers and the admin and the community to know what's going on, because I feel like it is stacking the deck against you guys. One of the commissioners made the comment that the school board will not work with us until we tell them no. This Financial Management Act has backed you into a corner. You don't have much wiggle room. It's pretty much take their compromise or wait till next year or the next year. And as Commissioner Iverson said, next year you got jail and staff. And year after that, you have a county commission election. So you guys have the duty of getting something done today. And I feel like that you have been pinched, and I'm sorry for that. I want to say a couple more things. I may be over, and if I am, I apologize. But if you look at the tax levy over the past 3 years, you'll see that general fund for the county has went from 72 cents to 94 cents, almost 95 cents. So almost an $8 million difference. You'll see solid waste has went from 1.77 cents to this year's 5.77 cents. That's a pretty good chunk of money. Highway Department went from 6.75 cents to 8.75 cents. It's about $800,000 extra there. The school system went from $1.17 to 98 cents. At some point, we have to invest in the right things. And I know I'm talking to the wrong crowd, but I won't be able to make the commission meeting on Friday, so I want it on record. And I know there's a few of them in the crowd that can pass it along if they're willing to. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. That brings us down to why we're here tonight, to again discuss the 2024-2025 general purpose school budget. This time I'm going to open it up for discussion. Mr. Jones.
I'll open it up with my remarks.
Yes.
I will be making a motion a little bit later in this meeting. I want to take you back a little bit. On January the 4th of this year, I made a motion to the director of schools and to the school board to include a 15% pay raise for all employees, including certified and non-certified, in next year's budget. This motion was made by me and seconded by Mike Hughes. The motion passed 7-0. Even former Commissioner Mark Iverson voted for this motion. We gave the county commission basically a 5-month notice, and there's at least one commissioner, two commissioners, I think, sitting in the audience tonight that would tell you that one of the first questions they asked of me is this going to require a tax increase next year? And my answer was, I don't know. Because at that point, we had no projected revenues, we had no projected expenditures that we could put our fingers on. This motion was discussed various times in the newspaper. It was discussed various times in public. We finally got our information, I believe, on May the 6th with our revenue. Maybe wrong on the 6th, but this was on Saturday morning. It came through email of what the revenue was going to be. That Monday or Tuesday on the 8th, I believe it was, we had a meeting and we passed a budget because we were able to put the revenue figures in. So we started the process of taking it back to the budget committee, asking them to approve it, to look at it. Most of the discussion has centered around administrator pay scales. The biggest complaint that I've had has come from county commissioners who say it's not fair for administrators to make $100,000 a year. Former commissioner, board member Iverson, who now county commissioner, made the statement last week that there's not 1,700 people in Sullivan County making $100,000. There in the elected courthouse, there were 13 elected officials making more than $100,000. The mayor making $146,000. Highway commissioner, $130,000. This is from the Tennessee Comptroller's Audit Report of 2023. That number will go up this year. County trustee, property assessor, county clerk, clerk of masters, register of deeds, the sheriff, the finance director, purchasing agent, county attorney, and the election commissioner. Most of these salaries are set by the state. They're set by the state, and a pay raise is given each year. The raise is not paid for by the state. The county commission has to pay the raise. The only one I know of is an exception. I think that the county commission approved a pay increase for the election commissioner. His pay, according to state law, is supposed to be 90% of the trustee's salary. He currently makes quite a bit more than that, and that was approved by the county commission. Last week, again, most of the discussion centered around how much of an increase our administrators are going to get. I have received in writing 2 written proposals from county commissioners with a suggestion, which is basically line item vetoing. And we know that that's not permitted. Last week, when the county commission voted, there's something that I want to bring to the commissioner's attention. I see 3 commissioners here tonight. You approved last year's operating budget, school system budget. If I could get a nod of heads, is that correct? Is that what was in the resolution, that we revert back to last year's budget? What you just did by approving that budget, according to the legal opinion, is that it cost you $2.5 million. Because you approved last year's budget, which increases Sullivan County's money back to what it was last year. We had lost $1 million according to the revenue given to us. Now we have that $1 million back. But by giving us that $1 million back, you are giving Kingsport $1 million and Bristol $500,000. I've asked for a legal opinion on that, and the legal opinion was that I could share that tonight. Is that not correct? I don't know that all the county commissioners know that. I don't know who knows it and who doesn't. But come August the 30th will be my last day on this board, August 31st maybe. I hope that a decision is reached before then, and if nothing is changed, the county has spent $2.5 million for nothing. With that, I'm ready to make a motion that will allow for discussion. My motion is that all employees receive a 15% pay raise. The only exception or change in my motion is that the administrator pay scale will be 15% of the teacher's salary for which you are qualified. In other words, if an administrator has a doctorate degree and 17 years experience, his increase would be based on that teacher scale. That is a loss for the administrator. That is the only compromise that I am willing to support. I don't know what the rest of the board will do, but I'm making that motion that we continue with the 15% pay increase for all individuals. But that the administrator pay scale, which includes 34 principals, assistant principals, and 7 supervisors, I believe, it's either 41 or 42. And they will receive their pay based on, their increase based on the teacher's salary schedule and their level of experience as far as degrees. All other central office people who are paid on the support staff would get the full 15%. Is that motion clear?
That motion's clear, and if you're done, I'll second it.
Okay.
And I would like to have some discussion. I had prepared about 40 minutes of legal jargon and mathematics, which I will not bore you with since we have a motion so quickly, but I would disagree with one thing Mr. Jones said. They didn't spend that $2.5 million for nothing. They did it to keep from giving us a raise, or you a raise. And by the way, the first proposal we sent over there, we were providing $4 million and asking for $6 million, so that would have covered nearly half of what we asked for the first time. So the second time we went back, and by the way, a rule in negotiations is when you're at the table and you have a deal, you don't renege. So they told us to come back. They did, and use our fund balance, so we did. And then they voted that down. So they actually spent $2.5 million not to give you a raise. And by the way, if that scenario played out 3 years in a row, they would have to give another 3%, which would be $3 million to us, and Kingsport, Bristol, and Johnson City would get a cut of that. So it wasn't good business to begin with. We did what we were asked to do. It wasn't my first choice to give the to use the fund balance, nor was it anyone on the board's first option. It was at their suggestion that we did that, and I reluctantly said, okay, we'll do that. The question of sustainability came up, but as Mr. Jones pointed out, the issue's been on the floor now for 6 or 7 months. They have the finances. They should be able to prove really quickly whether it is or isn't sustainable. We can see forward in our budget about 2 years. That's about as far as anybody can see in any budget. That's the reason we do annual budgets. And we know for sure that we're really good for those 2 years, and after that, we don't know any more than the county knows about their budget. They took the Financial Act in some part with help from John Lindbergh. He's not there any longer, and somewhat thanks to our people in Sullivan County, because they turned out in a big way. And so we have somebody at the State House now that will possibly see things in our favor sometimes. The letter they got from Jason Mumpower, who is the controller, they actually misread most of it and left some of it out when they read it at the meeting the other night. I'm not going to bore you with the whole letter, but anyone who wants a copy, I have it. And by the way, Mr. Mumpower is solidly in the corner of the commission almost on every issue. But this letter he sent was quite accurate. What he said, it's legal. Beware that you can sustain it, which is good advice. And he went on to say, when you're considering this, consider the fact that there are more money coming in to help with this. In other words, part of that sustainability can be offset with money that's coming in. So they read that letter as though the controller said not do it. Well, they, I think, misread it, and they left out that last part that talked about the money coming in, or at least what I heard that night. So anybody can spin anything in their favor. We have no spin. What we're saying and doing is just the facts. And this is a rare opportunity. We have people working in abject poverty in our system, and there's no excuse. This is a real chance not just to give a raise, but to actually really close the gap with the cities. You know, any other raise we give, they get a split, and they move forward, and we move forward. So they stay ahead. We can actually close that gap this time. So that's a good thing. And, I applaud Kingsport and Bristol for paying well. That's not my issue. I want us to do the same thing. And when you can do it, and it not cost any additional tax money, and it actually costs you $2.5 million more to not do it, I have a hard time seeing why they wouldn't. Now, my inclinations are not to compromise, and I second this motion because I seconded the first motion. My inclinations are not to do that. It's to stick. But I'm willing to do that because I know we have people that are hurting for that raise and waiting and planning on it. I've said this many times at this meeting. Some of our support staff are unbelievably underpaid. That's one comment that was said over there that is that's an accurate statement. So I'm willing to do it. I want to thank all the teachers that showed up and stood with us all through this process. Thank you. Makes me proud to stand with you. I want to take a second to thank the people who did vote with us the other night because, I mean, we focus on the negatives all the time, but I wanted to take a minute to thank Darlene Kelton, Michael Cole, Andrew Cross, John Gardner, who I've been on the board. He's consistent. Cheryl Harvey, who is here tonight, I believe. David Hayes, he's from my neck of the woods, Hickory Tree. Daniel Horn, Sam Jones, Tony Leonard, Archie Pierce, Gary Stidham, and Zane Vanover. Thank you. These are people who stood with you, and I appreciate it. Now, there's some other commissioners who I talked to after the fact that felt like they needed more information, and that's okay. I gave them the information I had. I wish we'd have got those questions prior, but we didn't. So, Mr. Jones, thank you for your motion. I've seconded it, and that's my comments.
I have a follow-up comment. Concerning sustainability, last year in 2023, school systems lost $9 million from the county. That's school systems, Bristol, Kingsport, Johnson City, or Kingsport and Sullivan County. A total of $4 million was taken from Sullivan County out of property tax. I had long debates, conversations with county commissioners concerning this, and lost the discussion. It was made up in sales tax. We didn't lose any money, it was made up in sales tax. But I want to take you back a few years ago to when the Pinnacle was built. And there was discussion about the TIF. Now, I won't tell you that I understand TIF. I do not. I've listened to several be approved. I know it's a way of giving tax breaks to companies. But part of the sale on that approach was that the education system is going to get an increase in sales tax. It will be a benefit to education. That's in several newspaper articles. And the reason for that is that half of the sales tax that's collected in the state, in the county, goes to education. That's a state law. Last year, because sales tax had been going up for the last basically 13 years, I think, it went up. County Commission needed more money for other things, and it was taken from the school system. If we had not lost the $4 million last year in the property tax, we wouldn't even be sitting here tonight. We wouldn't be over there asking County Commission about approval because $4 million would almost pay for what we need. We'd been talking about $2.5 million out of fund balance, but that $4 million is already gone somewhere else. So every time we, as a school system, we think we have something that is sustainable and a long-term plan, the rug's pulled out from under us. We lost renovation money. In 2001, we had to take our sales tax money to pay for the EESI grant or programs for 20 years. Part of that payment was made out of renovation money. I think $600 or $600,000 was paid out of renovation money. renovation money was taken away before we could finish our payments, so we had to take more money out of sales tax money. That one has been paid off. So that's a benefit. 2021, we implemented the teacher salary equalization pay plan. I had the mayor and others try to talk me out of supporting that, and that salary equalization pay plan was based on the average of the salaries in the surrounding areas, Kingsport, Bristol, Johnson City, Washington County, and Hawkins County, I believe. So we made progress. They said, you can't sustain it. We have sustained it since 2021. But the problem is we haven't been able to give any pay raises after that. COVID hit and other things happened. So now we're back behind. And that's the reason for asking for 15%. And I know I'm talking to the ones who are going to receive it, but I'm also talking to some county commissioners that I'm looking eye to eye with now. I think it's important that you understand who's going to get the 15%. Is 15% enough for the support staff? For those positions? No. But we've got to get started. And I hope that the board will approve this motion, even though I don't like making it. I don't like taking any money from our administrators on the back. I don't like proposing that. But I'm proposing it as a sacrifice for the good of the county and for the good of our students. Because you heard Avery and Nick, I believe, tonight talking. That's what it's about. It's not about us. It's not about a power struggle. We are funded right now basically at the minimum level on maintenance of effort from Sullivan County. There might be 2 cents per student that they could take from us. It's not much. So we're already at the bottom of the maintenance of effort. If this is not supported and approved, then it puts it back in where we were last year. And we will have enough money for step increases, but that's pretty much it.
I hope, Mr. Paget, that you are wrong and that the Friday morning at 10 o'clock is by design. I hope and I pray that you're wrong. I'd just like to also say, having been a principal for 17 years, it's a big pill for me to swallow to not give our principals the exact same 15% raise based on their salary scale as well. Not saying that I won't support it, I just have to go on record as saying I feel like that's a slap to me being a 17-year administrator. And I cannot for the life of me fathom that anyone would want to deny anyone to make over $100,000 a year, as hard as people work. I said once before, our policemen, our firefighters, and our teachers should be the highest paid people in America. I hope that we can move forward together. I feel like, yet again, we're doing something that they have asked us to do. And even though I disagree in my heart, this is one of those things that I will probably support rather than denying people getting anything. So just had to say that.
The county commission just gave a 5% raise to all of their county employees. We did that whenever I was on the county commission. I felt like that their pay was not enough. Our emergency and our sheriff's department and all the other employees that work very hard for us. And I feel the same for our teachers. and our support staff and administrators here, where they gave that 5% raise to all the county employees, the county budget had over a $5 million shortfall that they had to raise taxes 9 cents for to balance their budget. My question to the commission is, did the commission cut any of those pay raises to any of the county administrators, like our finance department, the director's assistant, any of the departments that was not elected? Did you all make a motion to cut any of their pay raise? No, that was never done. How is it fair to sit here and want us to cut and try to micromanage our budget and want us to cut our administrators' pay increase when I have witnessed firsthand how much our administrators work? I have been at ball games 3 and 4 times a week during the night at 10 and 11 o'clock, closing down concession stands and stuff. And those administrators still there. And those assistant principals still there to make sure that everything goes smooth. All of those custodians are there cleaning up through those ball games. And a lot of people think that it is a 8 to 3 o'clock job 9 months a year. And that I have seen firsthand, that is not what goes on with our administrators and our teachers and our support staff. Another question is, I just don't see how any commissioner can sit here and want to micromanage our budget to cut our administrators' pay when we have provided a balanced budget and asking for no tax increase when it's sustainable. Like I said before, I am not for cutting these administrators' pay raise, but I am going to support this because our teachers' morale is down right now. And starting this school year out, our kids do not need that, and our teachers don't need that. So thank you, Randall, for making that motion, because I am going to support this, and I hope the county commission supports it also.
I'd like to make one more comment.
I would too.
To put things into perspective. You got me? Okay.
Commissioners have asked me about sustainability. From 2016 until 2023, our average increase of revenue over expenditures is $1.8 million a year. I've gone back and looked at the revenue that was included in the year 2016 up through last year. I've looked at the expenditures that were included. There's only 1 year that we ended up having to use fund balance. It was in the budget, and that was in the year 2021 when we did early retirement incentive and teacher equalization pay plan. But we've saved money every year. The average this past year was actually $2.7 million in 2023. The average for the full 8 years is $1.885 million. So yes, for sustainability, we can't promise it's going to be that every year, but look at the track record. The track record has shown that we built the fund balance, and the fund balance is going to help take care of this. You go back and look at the tax rate from the year 2000 up to this year. In the year 2000, the tax rate was $2.63. The tax rate that was approved the other day is $2.49 point something, I believe. A little bit slightly less than $2.50. The tax rate goes up and down, but mostly it's gone down. There was an ad in the paper that said the cost of remaining competitive is 9 cents. That was an ad taken out by, I'm assuming, Mayor Venable. It was published in the paper. The cost of remaining competitive, 9 cents. That was for county employees. The cost of the teacher pay raise, there was 2 full-page ads in the papers, and it said it was going to be 37 cents tax increase if the county had to pay for it. But we manned up and used our fund balance to take care of it. And I made the statement back in January that if this costs me my position on the board, I'm willing to give my position for a 15% pay raise for the teachers and the staff. I don't know that it cost me that position, but I did lose it. I think it's time for the county commission to stand up. I think it's time for them to stand up for the students, the teachers, and the staff. If you can do it for county employees, if you can do it for the jail, an $80 million bond was passed, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago for the jail. It was passed in October, and it said it would cost a 12-cent increase in the tax rate when it was passed with resolution that night. Guess where the 12 cents came from? Taxes weren't increased 12 cents. It came from, partly, from the school system. Is that right? No. If we, as a public, continue to allow that, we are not going to make any progress with our education. Angie said the morale of the teachers is down. I think the morale of the students is up, and we've got to keep it up.
I want to make another, something to put things in perspective. If our director of schools resigned tonight and went to Bristol and became a principal at the middle school, he would only lose about $2,000. I mean, that's the perspective that I see. One of the commissioners said, well, in 2021-22, you paid for that raise by the retirement incentive. We actually spent $531,000 to pay for that retirement incentive, and that covered the cost of the raise for everyone else. That raise was given out of the same fund balance the same way as this one is. It's come from the same pot of money. So this has been done before, and we continue to build. Now, in the future, no one knows, but I would just submit that it's, you know what our teachers were doing first day of school and before school? And at Bluff City, I was down there on Sunday, and they were down there working on Sunday. They're working while everyone else is politicking and debating. They're doing their jobs. So we're going to do our job tonight, I think, and I hope that this results in a raise. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I won't belabor this because I agree with everything everybody said, and Mr. Padgett as well, because looking at data sometimes is quite helpful and can be eye-opening, because I saw a quote the other day, and I would summarize it's how the school board has been portrayed for the 8 years I've been on it. And it was falsehood flies and the truth comes limping after it. That's the type of politics that have been played between the county commission and the school board. It's easier to do when you have 24 members and you won't reduce yourself. You propose to reduce yourself, but then you take it off. You vote to reduce yourself, but then you rescind it 2 years later. It makes it such that things can happen where local legislatures will go and write a private act when the right person asks them, that's sitting across the street in the county commission, and will write one of the most restrictive private acts in the state of Tennessee related to financial management. all under the guise that our school board was irresponsible. We hid the ball. This goes all the way back to from when I came on the school board in 2016. And not once was there actually any proof of that. It's just statements that are made. What you've consistently seen in this body, if you go back and watch videos, is people like Mr. Hughes and Mr. Jones citing to actual facts and telling you the source. Not, I heard, or so-and-so said, or so-and-so told me, because that's all I've ever heard every time I've had a discussion, to be honest with you, with a county commissioner about any objection to anything the school board's doing. One other thing I'd like to point out, and perhaps this is our own failure as a Board of Education, is assuming that people understand something so complex, and it's what makes it so easy for falsehood to fly and the truth to come limping after it, is how education is funded in Tennessee and the accountability and thus the corresponding responsibility to elected officials is divided quite oddly in Tennessee. We're one of less than, I think there, as of 8 or 9 years ago, we were one of only 9 states in the country that was dependent. In other words, there are 40 states out there who run public education, and they elect school board members, and those members can be accountable, they can raise taxes, and they can vote to pass that, and that's how they fund themselves. We are completely dependent upon the county commission, which is why I always scratch my head about the purposes of the Financial Management Act and what they were really after, because in case anybody doesn't realize that they know every dollar that's coming to us even before they passed the Financial Management Act. Once a budget that they had to approve even before the Financial Management Act, once that passed, we could not move anything in a major category line item without taking a resolution, taking it across the street, and getting approval. So they had complete oversight over the budget. Unless you're a special school district, which as of 10 years ago, Tennessee only had 14, then that's how everything works regardless of how your county sets up its financial management. But they kept saying the school board's hiding the ball early when I was on the board, despite me seeing these emails where people like Ingrid Deloach and Evelyn Rafalowski are sending emails at 1 a.m. with details that one commissioner asked for, another one asked for. I'm going to be frank. The school board in this school system, if you look at how it's been financed since the bonds were issued for the first new construction in my lifetime, and I'm 43 years old when we were able to build Westridge and East Middle, they've just been treated as a redheaded stepchild, and they've been funded basically at the minimum legal level. And I would challenge anybody to show me different. Perhaps like Mr. Jones said, there might have been years where it was a penny or two. I almost don't even like bringing it up because I feel like there's a good chance that they'll try to figure out a way to take that penny or two. And the sad part is the only people that suffer from these petty politics and small people that have personal vendettas are the taxpayers. And that's why I say I would challenge anyone to go back and look at our meetings. They're recorded. Look at facts that are cited to, and then compare that to what you see happen over there. You know, part of the problem, though, folks, if we're just going to be honest, is it's sad when we live in a county where, you know, I'm not casting aspersions by saying this. This is a fact, but where they can create new positions, they can write a private act, they can pick who runs all the money in this county and gets paid 6 figures to do it. And then they can create a position for the person that covered them in the newspaper for 20 years and then make them their PR person and fund that at $75,000 and say that with benefits and salary, and then say that they'll be in charge of grant writing, and then turn around and then hire somebody else from this school system, I believe, after they then create another position for grant writing. It's things like that that, you know, I don't want to bring up. You talk about being collegial. I don't think that's not being collegial. It seems that nobody knows these things. They never get covered, yet people's faces, when you tell them this, they're astounded. He must not be telling the truth. Go check it out. Go check out all the numbers that Mr. Jones cited to, that Mr. Paget cited to. Look at votes where bonds are issued, all the way back to the jail, as Mr. Jones pointed out, $80 million. Then watch over the next few years what the tax increases are for. I just wish that if there was consternation on the county commission, if there was problems, they would be honest and say, what we're really concerned about is we don't have enough money to finish the jail. What we're really concerned about is we don't even have enough money without raising taxes or issuing more bonds to put cells in the part of the jail that are going to be done. I mean, I'm willing, and I can understand that concern, because I have talked to some commissioners afterwards, and they're just more concerned about the overall financial state of our county. But that's what you're elected to do, is not to try to find a scapegoat in what I would argue is the most important service that our county provides, and it's public education. And people say, oh, we got to build that jail. It's constitutional right. You know those lawyers like me, right? Well, you know what else is a constitutional right in Tennessee? The right to a free and public education, and the only required provider is the county. And so I think understanding the funding is important, because if you look back at our meetings, there are many of us that have lamented and really pushed back against the county commission, even before the Financial Management Act, leading to it, but then after it. Is there's two main sources of revenue the way public education is funded in Tennessee. That would be your real property taxes is a base of doing that. And then by law, 50 cents of every sales tax dollar has to go to public education. It can be more, and there are counties that give their public education systems more than the mandatory 50 cents of every sales tax dollar. But when you think about building a community and maybe not having to spend as much money on jails, then having a good property tax base and good public education is what drives people to an area. They don't want to move to an area that has to build a bigger jail every 20 years under the threat of being sued and is going to be full the day they open it. Those aren't polite things to say, but those are the truth. But they do want to move to an area that has new schools, that maintains their schools. So all I'm doing is kind of pointing out how disingenuous what I've seen being reported at times. And I don't fault reporters. They're putting in the paper what other elected officials are saying. But there's never been an explanation from Mayor Venable why he has repeatedly said this is going to cause a tax increase. I would surmise that what he's doing, he's a great politician. That's how he stayed in office. He's planning for what he knows is coming, that they have to pay for the jail. So let's just be honest. If we got to raise taxes, then man up and raise taxes. Don't fund your education system at the bare level and then say, I gave a raise to all county employees. I don't see them across the street saying that wasn't our employee when they laud an accomplishment from a Sullivan County teacher or an administrator or a student. We're all Sullivan County citizens, whether we're in cities, it's all part of the same county. And Sullivan County Department of Education employees are employees of this county. And so I don't see how, I've just been more shocked at how they have continually been able to do this and be reelected. And I think part of it is because we have tried to be collegial. We have tried to stay and stick to the facts. And we have pushed back. And that's why you see there's always going to be somebody running against people that do that. And there are people over there that will look you right in the eye and tell you that. But that's fine with me. I told you years ago before I even decided not to run again that I don't care if I ever get reelected again. I'm going to do what I think is morally right based on the facts, and I'm going to tell you the truth. You may disagree with me, and that's what's wonderful about a democracy. But the labels that get put on people or just say, oh, they're just this. Anytime somebody has to revert to that versus talk about the facts like an adult in this process, then look at their track record and wonder what they're really after. I'm like Dr. Rouse and Mr. Hughes and Ms. Stanley, and I'm sure everybody up here, I don't want to even give in on that. I don't want the administrators to have to change their pay scale, but I also agree. I mean, I'll say this, having met every administrator I've ever met in 8 years in Sullivan County, they would vote for that. They would sign up to take less than 15% of their salary so the teachers and the custodial staff and our maintenance staff could get that raise. So I'm going to support it, and I would love to hear an explanation for anybody. They should be willing, every no vote over there should be willing to look any teacher in the eye or a news camera and explain why, based on facts, they do not support this budget.
I'd like to point out one more misinformation from one of the commissioners. Mr. Iverson in the meeting said the other night that, first of all, he quoted Mr. Jones incorrectly, and most of the teachers had it on their phones before they left, the accurate. He claims we're hiding $11 million in our budget. In the meeting in January, he told the board that we was hiding $11 million and accepted the challenge to go find it. And he said in the commission meeting that he did, except he didn't. But I did, and Mr. Jones did, and we pointed it out to him. He's voted yes on this twice and no on this twice. So he voted yes in the meeting we had in January and claimed that we could do it that night. And we said, no, we can't do it tonight, but we're going to do it in the next budget. But he's voted yes twice and no twice. So anybody can say anything, and that includes me. But somewhere 2 + 2 = 4, and there's an answer. I just wish people would start getting the right answer, and thank you for comments.
I kind of was hesitant to say anything, but I am going to say one last thing, especially after Mr. Spivey's comments about our administrators. I knew there was some conversations about potential ways that we might could get our budget presented. So I wanted to make sure that our administrators had a voice, and I don't know if they would want me to say this tonight, but I spoke with each administrator in each of our schools, our lead principals, and to a T, Mr. Spivey, they all were saying, if it means that our teachers and our support staff wouldn't get a raise, I don't even really want a raise. And so I think that just speaks volumes to their servant leadership and their sacrifices that they make every day. And I applaud our administrators for their stance and their leadership. So thank you to our administrators. And I just wanted to add that.
Anything else? Sure, Ms. Stanley.
Moving forward, I know that we're going to have some new board members coming on here soon. But moving forward, I would like to make sure that we try to give a raise, cost of living raise every single year. So we're not sitting back here in 3 or 4 years going through this same thing again. Everything keeps going up, but their pay didn't go up. Their insurance goes up. I know one time whenever they got like a 2 or 3% raise, they're like, our insurance went up 5%. So it was nothing for us. So moving forward in the future, I want to make sure that our employees are taken care of every year in the budget, so we're not sitting back here like we are now.
Growing up, my dad raised me with 4 words: do the right thing. And throughout this process, that's been my goal. I want to publicly thank Mr. Carter, Mr. Loach. Hours upon hours upon hours have they spent working on this. The initial 15% for everybody that I made the motion at Westridge that night, I have a hard time backing down, but I am willing to do this if we can make this happen. I think our administrators are well worth it. But do the right thing. If you live by those words, I just don't think that there's any bad that can happen. And I do want to thank Mr. Carter and again Ingrid for everything y'all have done, because it's unbelievable the amount of work y'all have put into this to help make this happen. Anybody else?
If this passes tonight and is rejected by the county commission, we revert to last year's budget, and we need to move forward with that. I don't think there's a need for a motion on something like that, but if by chance it's rejected, then we have to plan to operate with last year's budget and the numbers that are there.
Any further discussion, or are we ready to vote? Ready to vote.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Dr. Rouse,
Yes.
Mr. Spivey,
Yes.
Ms. Stanley.
Yes.
We'll be back tomorrow night for our regular scheduled meeting. Work session at 4:30 and board meeting at 6:30.
We will need to get this prepared and on the agenda for the work session, I suppose.
Let me make, maybe something else that would require a vote. I would recommend that the budget that is sent back over be the same as what we sent originally as far as use of fund balance, because the fund balance is basically a safety net anyway, so I would not change any numbers. Just, they know what we presented. You will let them know what we presented. But I wouldn't change any numbers, how much is coming out of fund balance, because, again, that's just a safety net anyway, and as history has shown for the last 8 years, we have saved more than we've spent. So my recommendation would be that we leave the budget as is, with just the addendum that we have made a change in the salary schedule.
Which, again, to just clarify, is another thing that they had asked us to do to compromise, correct?
Yes.
Anything else? Need a vote on that? Is that your motion? Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Dr. Rouse. Anything else? We're ready to vote.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Dr. Rouse,
Yes.
Mr. Spivey,
Yes.
Ms. Stanley,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
All right. Motion to adjourn. Close to adjourn. So moved. We're out.